welcome to the WPL Book Drop Podcast. I'm your host, Seth Thill, library assistant at the Waterloo Public Library, Feathers McGraw apologist, and eBay enthusiast. I am excited to welcome a great guest to the podcast today. Joining us today is library assistant and dilettante florist, Miranda. Welcome, Miranda.
Thanks for having me, Seth.
Of course. I want to be very clear that the dilettante descriptor there was all Miranda. I think she is a very good florist. If you come into the library, in fact, you will often find flowers along the counters and other surfaces in the library, and most of those have been grown by Miranda, I think. Grown by Miranda?
Yeah. And I don't ask permission, so...
That's true.
Every surface, generally.
Yes.
Is open to have some of my flowers.
Yes. But yeah, Miranda works down in the youth department here at the library. Miranda, since this is your first time on the show, could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do here in the youth department?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. So I work in the youth department, which means I do a lot of youth programming, story times, arts and crafts, Dot Day, which we'll talk about, but in my personal life, I'm parent of 2 kids, pretend florist, and dilettante, and a reader.
Reader?
Yeah.
Books are good.
Books are good.
You had it from the librarians, folks. Books. 2 thumbs up.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you. So you mentioned Dot Day.
Yeah.
Today on the episode, we are here to primarily talk about that, to talk about International Dot Day, which is an annual global celebration founded by late Iowa native Terry Shea, based on the children's book The Dot by Peter Reynolds. Miranda, can you tell us broadly just kind of about the history and kind of goals and aims of this celebration?
Sure. So Terry Shea was a local educator that felt a little concerned about how students were being pushed toward testing. And so his response to that, after reading this book by Peter Reynolds, was to find ways to celebrate creativity outside of, a basic multi-choice test. So he started this in his own school, this Dot Day celebration, where he would encourage his students to make dots. The premise of this story is that Vashti, a student, does not feel like an artist, and through encouragement from their teacher, they start with a dot and grow in their bravery in terms of becoming an artist, which I think is a beautiful lesson and is a great thing to start your school year off with. And Terry recognized that, and it worked so well in his school community that he said, what if we made this a big deal? And so he grew his relationship with Peter Reynolds, the author, and this is the 15th year. It is now a global celebration where pockets of school communities, libraries, artworks do their own Dot Day celebrations on their own, and is loosely organized by this organization and platformed. So the aims of the celebration and the book are to celebrate creativity, courage, collaboration, and I think really community. So it's several C's are involved.
Yeah, that's really, really lovely, and I really like what you said about how it's a really good way to start the school year, because I think all of those things are really important for someone, whatever grade you might be in, going into a new group of people, and finding that community and learning that we all have special abilities and talents, and our creativity is really valuable. Yeah, that's really great.
And I don't know if you remember, Seth, we did it as professional development last year, that we all just took a brain break to be creative, and our dots will be on display this year too. But it's a good lesson for children and everyone. I think that grown-ups are just former children, and
Yeah.
and so to nurture that is just very important and valuable.
I agree. I like that a lot. That's really great. So we touched on this a bit, but can you tell us how you learned about Dot Day and what in particular about it really resonates with you?
Sure. So, Terry Shea did pass away, and unfortunately, a beloved colleague of ours, India, passed away, and she was involved. I believe she's done Dot Day here in the past before I became a staff member, but we worked on it together. She was the connection to Terry, who did our reading last year. And India was just a very special person who was very, very passionate about celebrating art specifically for young people, among many other things. But I just feel like partnering with her on this and just seeing how she interacted with the community, reading this book, engaging in the message of Dot Day. I think what really resonates with me and what is my favorite part about it is just recognizing how important it is to be that grown up for whoever that is nurturing whatever in a kid. It doesn't necessarily have to be dot making or art, just whatever their special niche is. Just to celebrate that and be interested in it and be curious about it. That's another C. The through line is just being a curious adult that is willing to meet kids where they are. Like, I don't know anything about video games, but man alive, if a teen comes in and wants to talk to me about one, I will pretend that I will learn about it. And that's part of the special part of Dot Day for me, is seeing the young little kids come in and find their dots. And just, again, we're all former children, so we get that importance.
Yeah, I love that. Passing down the creative values and just everything, passing it from generation to generation and honoring the legacies of people before us, and continuing to foster that creativity. I think this is a really, really beautiful way to do it. So to get into the way that we are doing that this year, as we've kind of mentioned, Miranda has been very involved in coordinating Dot Day in recent years, and this year within the library and within the community at large through many fantastic partnerships with different local organizations. This year we'll be having a kickoff party for Dot Day on September 21st, which is a Saturday in the morning. I'll let Miranda talk more about the details. But yeah, Miranda, can you talk about how the Waterloo community has celebrated Dot Day in the past and what we can look forward to this year?
Yeah, sure. So we, the library has celebrated Dot Day in the past. The farmers market has celebrated Dot Day in the past. And then, like I was saying, the Dot is a very, very good first day of school, first weeks of school lesson that media teachers and art teachers teach. So our Dot Day last year just kind of combined all those things and made sure that, or it ensured that we were all working together to celebrate the concept. So last year, I think we had 11 public schools submit art to us, and we hung the art. They were on display for around a month last year, and so this year we will have more. I think almost all of the public schools from elementary to high school are contributing some sort of piece, collaborative murals, their own art things. The art teachers are really doing the heavy lift. There's a lot of very cool projects coming our way this year. And so we are doing our celebration at the farmers market because they had been already doing a celebration, and now we're just partnering and growing that. So we will have a booth down there. We will be doing a story time. We're going to do a reading of the Dot, and what is really, really exciting about the reading is that unless something changes, Peter Reynolds will actually be here to do the reading to honor the legacy of his friend Terry. Terry loved to see all the dots last year, and so growing that is just a way to contribute to that legacy of inspiring creativity within our school children. We will be doing projects here. Our story time will have Dot Day, so our littlest patrons, art will be on display. And then we have some other organizations coming in, like the Sportsplex is going to be there to do hula hoop classes, because what is a hula hoop if not just a large dot? And then we, the vendors at the Dot Day will also be doing Dot Day deals on produce and flowers and the art that is sold. So that's an opt-in sort of situation. We really wanted to make it a Dot Day in the district, so that everybody can come together and see all of the great things that community members are doing, local businesses, because again, that is really what the through line of the celebration is to me, and I hope that is felt by our little artists. And so that is also the grand opening of the art display. The dots will be on display. Thousands of dots. The library is about to turn rainbow, which is honestly my favorite color. Rainbow is what I always tell our littlest patrons. So they'll be here trying to ferociously find their dots and running. And that's, speaking for me, and you're another staff member, I love to see these little artists just thrilled to see their dot at another place that isn't their school. So
they're always so excited to come in whenever we have, and we've had other kind of art projects where we've hung student artwork before, and then with past dot days too. Their faces just light up so instantaneously. They're so excited bringing their parents in and showing them what they worked on. I love that a lot, and I really like what you say about keeping it district wide and getting as many people as possible involved, because the through line of community and creativity is so important. And hopefully working in the youth department, you don't get this as much, but I feel like something I get a lot at the library is like people who don't think they are creative or don't think they have access to that part of themselves. And I do think that it kind of starts with childhood and being able to foster that as a kid, but I think even at any age, no matter where you are or who you are, you can do creative things, and you're capable of really cool, awesome things, even if you don't have the steadiest hand or aren't classically trained in whatever it is that you do. And I think things like this just really help kind of build people up, I think.
I think that in my adult programming as well, I feel that it's really important when we're doing adult programming to just let people, just to remind people that art is a process, right? And it doesn't, you don't have to monetize it, it doesn't have to be Instagram worthy. The act of creativity is beneficial and joy filled if you let it be, and kids are reluctant. They hold, some kids can hold some sort of feeling, I'm not good enough, and that's really what this character goes through, and then you see the evolution of how they feel empowered to create, and it's just really special to be able to participate in that, even if it's just a little, I get to see a little bit of it here or in my own life. So.
Love that. That's great. There doesn't have to be any sort of end game to creating. You can just do it for the sake of doing it, and access parts of yourself that you maybe normally don't. I really like that. Well, thank you for coming on today, Miranda. As Book Drop listeners or watchers know, we always end the podcast with 2 book, TV show, or movie recommendations from both our host and guest. So I'll go ahead and give my recommendations first and let us end on Miranda's. My first recommendation for today is something I recently read while I was on my honeymoon, or bought while I was on my honeymoon and got back. I found a really good deal on it at a used bookstore.
Amazing. Love that.
But it's just Magic, the Life of Irvin Magic Johnson. I'm a big Lakers fan, a big basketball fan, and I don't generally read a ton of biographies and stuff, but Magic Johnson's one of my favorite players of all time as a Lakers fan, and the author is Roland Lazenby. I was never going to remember that name, so I'm glad I looked it up. It's just a really well done biography, nothing flashy, but it's just really well written, chronicles breadth of Magic Johnson's life, from his basketball career to, of course, the his HIV diagnosis in the 90s, and handles it very respectfully, and really, I think it's just a very well done a really well done biography for a basketball player I like a lot. And the second one is You Could Make This Place Beautiful by Maggie Smith. This is a memoir made up of vignettes of kind of little lyrical prose. They're kind of like prose poem. Each chapter is kind of a prose poem. Though I think those distinctions are oftentimes arbitrary, but like just little lyrical short vignettes, centered, a lot of them centered around the divorce of an author and kind of finding the positives despite going through a really tough time. And it's just a really just masterfully written, again, just Maggie Smith is a poet in the past, has primarily published poetry, and just has an amazing command of the English language through lyricism, and it just really comes through here, and every chapter is something dynamic and interesting and really beautiful to take away from. So yeah, I can't recommend that book enough. You Could Make This Place Beautiful by Maggie Smith. So before we end today, Miranda.
Well, I want to add both of those to my to be read pile, because I'm not a huge like sports. I don't typically watch a lot of sports, but man alive, I will sit and watch a biopic or like a 30 for 30.
Yeah.
So that sounds amazing. So my recommendations, I have 3, but one is just like obvious, The Dot. I just feel like adults should never stop reading children's books, even if they don't have children or their children have grown. It's just a really great intersection of art and words, and so The Dot. And then I also brought what I'm reading currently and finishing up. It's a good read aloud. It's called A Rover Story by Jasmine Warga. We just recently started a new book club for kind of our 3rd to 6th grade kiddos. A lot of the schools in the district participate in something called Battle of the Books. So we are taking selections from the list, and we're going to read them in the library all together. So I'm doing October. Mine's The Rover Story, and legitimately, it's one of the best books that I feel like I've ever read. Which I love children's lit. That's part of why I'm a youth services library assistant. But it's about a rover who slowly becomes sentient and gets sent to Mars. So it's STEM, it's family dynamics, it's beautifully written. The other book that I have written or read by Jasmine Warga is No Place Like Home, and she wrote that in lyrical poetry, the entire thing. So it really connects with your recommendation. So A Rover Story. If you have a little kiddo who's doing Battle of the Books, please send them our way. We're gonna do snacks, crafts, and read-alikes. So if you liked that book, here's a read-alike. If you didn't like that book, here's a try this instead. So every month, Battle of the Books. Then my other recommendation is a podcast that I just love so much. It's called Sentimental Garbage. It's hosted by Carolyn O'Donoghue, who is an author that we have all of their books here. And it's a podcast about the culture that we love, but society sometimes makes us feel ashamed of. So it started as a chick lit podcast, so they would kind of unpack like Under the Tuscan Sun, and then it became all culture, like that is typically feminine coded, but not always. And she just handles it all with just such empathy, and not teasing somebody for something that they like. And she does deep dives on like the Gilmore Girls, and Josie and the Pussycats, and that's it, right? Pussycat? Josie and the Pussycats. Yeah, okay, yeah. I love it so much. So I just highly recommend, if you're looking for a cozy thing to listen to when you're gardening or doing laundry, not only this podcast that we're on right now, but Sentimental Garbage by Carolyn O'Donoghue.
I will have to delete this part of the podcast. No promoting other podcasts.
No!
I'm kidding. No, that sounds like a really great plan. I really like that a lot. Yeah, just eliminating shame from what we consume, I think, is really important, especially when it's coded in certain things.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miranda, for coming on the show today. You all can visit Miranda when she is in our youth department, our brand new youth department, by the way. With that, all of our construction and everything has been finished for a couple months now. If you haven't checked it out, feel free to come take a look. We got lots of really cool, we have our cool new like arches going into our grand entrance of the youth area, and are still on the lookout for other cool things that will make it even more fun for the kids. And you can also see Miranda and take part in Dot Day again on September 21st at 9 a.m. at the library will be the grand opening of the exhibit. And then over at 10:30 that day, over at the farmers market will be that special story time. Again, knock on wood, as long as nothing changes, headed by Peter Reynolds, the author of The Dot himself.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Miranda.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun.
Of course. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe, and we will see you around.